Bom dia. When I was 15, I was not in a good place. I felt lost in the world. Life as a teenager was confusing. Other people were confusing. I wasn't sure where I belonged, if I belonged somewhere. I also had a lot of time on my hands. And I was trying to figure out life, but I wasn't yet sure where to begin. Well, luckily, I met someone. Her name was Morven Keller. And Morven was a little bit older than me, and she had a story. She fled her port town in Scotland when her then boyfriend committed suicide, and instead of alerting the police, she ran to Ibiza to lose herself in weeks of unbridled hedonism. Morven was the toughest person I knew, and also the sweetest. And that summer, we had all of these adventures together. Knowing her made me feel a little bit less alone. And I should also tell you that Morven Keller was a book. A novel by Alan Warner, partly written in Scots, so there were parts that I did not understand, but I understood enough to be drawn into her world and be mesmerized by this little novel. I still felt lost in this world, but at least I felt there was someone who thought like me and felt like me. Someone, fictional as Morven may have been, I felt connected to. And in the years to come, there were more books, other books that had an impact on me. Douglas Copeland's Generation X made me understand that the feeling of disconnection that we feel is rooted in our culture. But telling stories is one of the ways that we can heal. Haruki Murakami's Norwegian Wood taught me that however much you love someone, love alone cannot heal that person. Kay Tempest's The Brick That Built the Houses made me find poetry beneath violence and ignorance. And Michel Houellebecq's Particules Élémentaires finally made me understand that it's our society that makes us feel the way we do. And that the disconnection that we feel is a symptom, not the illness itself. I could have easily listed 10 more books that had a profound impact on me growing up. Books that made me understand myself a bit better, that taught me something about life and made me a better and wiser person. And I'm sure you, as lovers of books, have your own lists. That's probably why we're here. And later on, I also made my profession of books. I became a writer. I was trained to be a psychotherapist, but decided to put my psychology degree to practice in a different way. See, as a psychologist, you are trained to locate the source of psychological suffering within the person itself. Someone becomes depressed, let's say, because of their genes, or their upbringing, or their specific life circumstances. But I always felt there was one set of actors or factors missing from these explanations. It's our culture and the specific times that we live in that also have an impact on the way we feel. Our mental health is also affected by the world that we inhabit. And this interplay between person and society, or person and culture, became, well, central in my books and my work. Two of which have also been translated into Portuguese, by the way. They contain bad words, I'm told. So as you might know, we're living through a mental health crisis. We are more stressed, more traumatized, more distracted, more anxious, and more insecure than we were ever before. In my country, the Netherlands, 4 in 10 people classify for a psychiatric or psychological diagnosis at some point in their lives. 6 out of 10 adults feel dangerously stressed. Some of them burn out completely. In a country of 17 million, 800,000 people are depressed, and 1.2 million people suffer from anxiety disorders. And it's teenagers and adolescents that bear the brunt of this, as their quality of life decreases, we know from research. And most worrying of all, in my country, 27% of people feel that their life is completely meaningless. And I'm sure you have similar figures in your country as well. And my work is about finding out why we're in this crisis of mental health. So what changed? It's not our genes, I would say. Our upbringing has changed quite a bit, but not as much as to warrant such a drastic increase in mental health problems. To me, it's clear something in our culture shifted. And finding out what that something is what my work is about. And in fact, it's not one thing that's changed, it's multiple. First, there's the pressure that society puts on us to live fantastic lives. We measure ourselves against a norm that is unreasonably high. We feel we should have a dream job, the perfect marriage, fun and handsome kids, exciting travels, a stellar social life, and a perfect body, all at the same time and in the same lifetime. And we're made to feel as failures if we don't achieve those unreasonably high goals. We're made to feel we are never enough and should continuously strive to be better, more productive, happier people than we are. So however hard we try, society still tells us this: you are not enough. And then there's more often than not that we work in an unhealthy way, I would say. So toxic productivity culture dictates that we should be available for work 24/7, prioritizing our work tasks above everything else, even our own health. No wonder we're in a burnout epidemic, I would say. And if you're unlucky, you might end up in a bullshit job, which is not my term, it's a term coined by sociologist David Graeber. A bullshit job is a job that you yourself don't really see the point of. More people than you think. And then there's technology, I would say, that has a severe impact on our mental health. And I put the blame mostly on social media, which I tend to call anti-social media. Technologies specifically designed to distract and manipulate and exploit us, which ties into one more cultural factor, which is the loneliness epidemic that we're currently living through. Ours is also a very lonely world, also increasingly for young people, I would say. Paradoxically, because of the many connections that we have online, we feel increasingly disconnected to the actual people around us. So no wonder our mental resilience deteriorate, I would say. I'd argue our world seems specifically designed to test our mental health. But there's one more deeper factor I only really started thinking about while preparing for this talk. It's that nowadays we tend to be thrown into the world without a connection to a story that's bigger than ourselves. While previous generations had religion or ideology, we are brought up with the task to create our own stories wherever we can. And we really aren't sort of told how we should do that, we're just told to do that. And in this state of storylessness, we lose connection to our roots. And it's here that books can help. As I'm sure you know, reading books helps you relax. Reading books, whether it's on paper or screen or audio, trains your attention span. They increase your empathy and your emotional intelligence, but their influence also runs deeper than that. Books are radical technologies, I would say, in the literal sense of the word. Radix means roots in Latin. Books allow us to connect with what Carl Gustav Jung calls the spirit of the deep. They connect us to a shared story, to our common humanity. Books have a very real ability to make us feel less lonely in this world. And today we're talking about the future of books. A future that, as you know, is under threat, I would say. In the future, will people still invest their time and energy in reading books, let alone writing them? Will they survive our attention-destroying technology? Will books be reduced to AI chatbots that do the reading for you? Will we own books, borrow them, co-create them? What roles will books play in decades to come? This is a question that quite recently has become even more relevant for me personally. This is Ilias. I knew that was going to happen. This is Ilias. He is 9 weeks old today. To put that in perspective, in my fridge I have cheese older than him. And this is the first time I'm spending a couple of days away from him, so I do hope that you realize the sacrifice I'm making in being here. But Ilias has quickly become, we also named him after a book, by the way. Ilias has quickly become the center of my world. And it's only through him that I understand it's not my world or my future that we're fighting for here today, it's his future and his world. So it's up to us to ensure that when he grows up, some 15 years from now, and feels lost in a complex world that he doesn't yet understand, he stumbles upon his own Morven Keller. A novel, a strange little novel that will help him grow, feel him less lonely, make him feel less lonely, and make him feel more human. And it's up to us to make sure that he will be able to do so. That's, I would say, the future of reading that we should be talking about today. Obrigado.